appreciate that. Let me bring in somebody else who's going to have a busy day, Congressman Ted Lieu, Democrat from California. He is a member of the House Judiciary Committee and will be in the room for today's hearing. So, Congressman, given what we just heard from my colleague Jeff Bennett about the White House restricting what Lewandowski can say, and Lewandowski already echoing his former boss here, what do you realistically think you're going to get out of him?
Thank you, Hallie, for your question. Let me make the overall point that I agree with you. The White House is engaging in unprecedented obstruction of Congress. And it's not
don't say you agree with me. That's not what the point that Jeff is making is that the White House is saying other administrations in the past have done this. They're arguing that they have a right to be able to direct former employees not to comply with these subpoenas. Do they have a point?
That's actually not true. This is unprecedented obstruction of Congress, and it's not just the Judiciary Committee. For example, we're trying to find out why is the Trump administration suing to eliminate health care coverage for Americans with pre-existing conditions. They won't provide that information either, so it's across the board. And specifically for the Judiciary hearing, we wanted to get in Porter, we wanted to get in Dearborn. Yeah. They won't allow those folks to even come and show up before Congress. That is unprecedented. That's why we're litigating, and we believe we're going to win in court.
So do you think, given all this, that you can do your job right now effectively?
Certainly it's hampered, but we can still get a lot of facts out. When Robert Mueller testified, look, he's not going to get an Emmy Award for his performance, but he did say yes and true to a whole boatload of very damning facts about the president. And with Corey Lewandowski, we hope he doesn't lie under oath, and he simply has to say yes and true to the facts in the Mueller report, and that itself will be very damning.
So let me go back to that first question I asked you about what you hope to get out of Mr. Lewandowski. Is the bar set at don't lie under oath? I mean, is that what you're going for here? What realistically do you want from him?
So the special counsel identified 10 instances of obstruction of justice. For 5 of those instances, he found there was substantial evidence that the crime was committed. Corey Lewandowski was intimately involved in one of these instances, which is when the president directed Corey Lewandowski to tell Jeff Sessions to stop the Russia investigation into Donald Trump. We're going to explore that and bring those facts out to the American people.
I want to play for you something that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said this morning, specifically about the committee that you sit on, suggesting that perhaps you are all wasting your time with impeachment. I want to play for you what he had to say.
What should this committee be doing? The crisis at our border, immigration, the review of all these tech companies. This is the committee that has jurisdiction over it. He's doing nothing.
Is he correct, Congressman? Would you like to see your committee focus more on some of these other issues, or do you think you can walk and chew gum, so to speak, at the same time?
Actually, Kevin McCarthy just hasn't been paying attention. We have, in fact, held hearings on immigration, on antitrust issues. We've passed legislation out on immigration. And last week, we passed out, over the objection of Republicans, 3 gun safety measures. And we're continuing to proceed in the committee, both legislating and doing investigations at the same time.
I want to talk to you about this morning in what Political Playbook calls the impeachment pickle for your side of the aisle, Congressman, writing that this has come up in conversation with sources, that if House Democrats impeach Donald Trump and he loses, they worry they could get blamed for a political hit job. If they don't impeach him and he wins, they worry about getting blamed for the Democratic base for not doing enough. So the best case scenario is that Democrats are left hoping they do not impeach the president and that he loses on their own, that that's ultimately the win-win. Do you agree with that assessment?
So here's my view. No one can come away from reading the Mueller report and looking at these hearings without concluding that Donald Trump committed multiple felonies. What members of Congress choose to do with those facts, it's up to their conscience and their district. By the end of the year, the House Democratic Caucus will make a decision as to whether or not to move forward with impeachment. And whatever that decision is, I'm going to respect.
Let me ask you about what House Speaker, something else that is making obviously a lot of news today, what House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is calling for, and that is a briefing on these rising tensions as it relates to the Saudi oil production attack. Are you optimistic that you will get that briefing? Have you heard anything more about timing on that? And is it something you want to see?
I am optimistic we'll get that briefing. I'm on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I just want to note we have no treaty with Saudi Arabia. An attack on Saudi Arabia is not an attack on the U.S. There's no basis to go to war. The only way Donald Trump can go to war in the Middle East on behalf of Saudi Arabia is to come to the American people and come to Congress to get a declaration of war first.
So when President Trump, for example, over the weekend tweets that he is going to see what the kingdom with Saudi Arabia has to say first, essentially, before he moves on, do you find that concerning? Do you think he's being too deferential to the Saudis, or no?
I found that tweet revolting. I served on active duty in the U.S. military. It's very clear to me that our masters are the American people, not the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Congressman Ted Lieu, a lot to talk about with you this morning. I appreciate you being on the show, and I know you have a busy afternoon ahead of you. I'm sure you'll be catching up with my colleagues on the Hill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.